Today, the commercial food system is massive. It's a multi-trillion-dollar global industry with huge amounts of inefficiency, waste, and therefore cost. A lot of it's lost at the field, a lot of it's lost in transportation, a lot of it's shelf life and shrink on the retail shelf, a lot of it's waste by the consumer. Food is not a space that historically has received a lot of investment. It's very regulated from a utility standpoint. A lot of infrastructure required. It's highly subsidized and very politicized. Logistics is a massive industry. Access to certain amounts of sunlight, the right portions of the year, the right soil conditions, the right humidity levels, also high capital requirements. How do we both feed people and maintain longevity and sustainability of our way of life? Today, when we have 800 million people globally that lack access to an affordable supply of healthy food, this problem is closely tied to very meaningful social impact. We only have 7.5 billion people, expected to get well over 9 billion people in the next 30 years. The Food and Agriculture Organization predicts that global food production needs to increase by 70% to keep up with that demand in the next 30 years. Outdoor farming is not going to be able to do that. If we don't do that, we risk seeing price spikes, food shortages, increasing populations that lack access to something that is almost a human right, which is access to the ability to feed yourself, feed your family. How to use technology to grow food more efficiently without the burdens on the environment that it places today? And how do you start to break down a lot of these cost barriers that can start to increase access to the world's healthiest, most nutritious products, while at the same time alleviating the environmental burden that our commercial food system places on the planet today? How do you take this incredibly impactful thing, which is food, and begin to empower people through it?
Well, this morning we are getting a look at some of the latest innovations out of South by Southwest.
Newsweek's Courtney Burris is showing us how one company is using shipping containers to grow crops.
Californian company Local Roots has developed technology that it says can replicate any kind of climate inside a 12-meter repurposed shipping container.
Local Roots Farms is a company based in Los Angeles. It's taking old shipping containers and retrofitting them into urban farm space.
I think as a kid, I would play by myself quite a bit and became very comfortable doing my own thing. I think I still am that way. And I enjoy interacting with folks and having relationships. But I'm very much an introvert, and so very much value my time alone and recharge and process and think and internalize on my own time. Local Roots, we design, build, deploy, and operate controlled environment indoor farms. Suddenly you can bring the farm to the point of consumption. You can put that farm in the community or next to the customer that is consuming or buying that food. And so suddenly, instead of trying to add efficiency to a complex supply chain, you can simplify, in some cases completely eliminate a lot of that supply chain. As a child, was always looking to help others. Also wanted to work with people that I thought were inspiring and doing something that could have an impact.
How did you first hear about Local Roots, and what was your first thought about what they were doing?
At the time, he had one shipping container, and it was just a test site on the back lot of SpaceX, which was cool,
Yeah.
just alone. And I went down to check it out and was amazed at what he was doing. And it was a fully contained but modular system. So whether you have one or you have 100, you can scale as needed. And these can be shipped anywhere in the world. And a lot of the technology has come out of the marijuana industry. So as marijuana has become legal, a lot of the learnings of the last 30 years of growing under dark conditions have been shared.
So basically, is that the specific catalyst that ended up happening? Is that crops were being grown that weren't supposed to be under scrutinizing eyes, so it forced them to create technology that would work in the dark?
Absolutely.
In a local roots farm, what we would call a terra farm, we measure and manage every variable that drives plant growth, from temperature, humidity, CO2, airflow, light. And by combining that with the optimization of all the other factors in the air and in the water, you actually have very complex data sets to allow that existing biology to express itself as fully as possible. And when you can really fine-tune all of those parameters to exactly what that plant wants, you see some incredible things. You see faster growth rates, you see higher yields, you see better flavor profiles, you see higher nutrient densities, all of the things that you want in your food, all without any genetic modification or pesticide or herbicide application of crops. We spent a lot of time thinking about, what is our mission? We were focused on impact and making sure that that was a shining light for our company. We needed to develop our own systems, hardware, software, become expert growers, develop manufacturing capability, and then a business model that can integrate this solution at scale. And we eventually came to the mission of improving global health by building a better food system. So it almost had the audacity and scale of a challenge that I'd been looking for an opportunity to work on, and launched Local Roots back in 2013. I was born up in Redmond, Washington, which is in the suburbs of Seattle. And we grew up in a house sort of on the outskirts of the Seattle area. I got to do a lot of very cool things with my dad. Got into mountain biking and did camping and took a sea kayaking trip up in Alaska out into the middle of nowhere. So I think anytime we were outdoors exploring on a hike or a mountain, I'd always get a little bit of a lesson about the ecology and the landscape and the geology of our surrounding. And my mom, she also had an appreciation for the outdoors and animals and a love for people, and very, very warm and endearing, and also taking care of those around her. Both my parents are very conscientious and care about others, and believe that each of us has a responsibility to those around us. So I think that probably played a part, but it's always been something that kind of lights a fire in me when I see injustice or something that I think is wrong or someone being mistreated. It's always been something that's kind of been intolerable to me. I wanted to be a professional soccer player. The first time I experienced this concept of flow and being like lost in the moment when I was playing soccer, and I would just get lost and have an incredible amount of fun. I think at that stage my dream was to do that with my whole life. It's not only technical skill, but quite a bit of tactics as well, and how a team works together, knowing how you fit into a system and how certain positions need to kind of architect the strategy and execution on the field. I think both tapped into my physical desire to be active and competitive, and then also my intellectual desire to optimize.
Why lettuce? Why greens? Why is that an important piece of the puzzle?
Well, I think what's really important, one, lettuce does really well under hydroponic conditions. So it's a really good group of plants that does well, thrives, tastes delicious. Secondly, they're incredibly tender and delicate. So the closer you can grow lettuces or herbs to the end user, whether it's a market or a restaurant or your own table, the better.
Indoor farming is not specific to the type of building or the shape or the size of the farm. So a lot of we thought about, which is what is the right size and shape for a farm. And a lot of what we wanted to do is be able to mass manufacture these systems so we could build many of them very cheaply and deploy them anywhere in the world. So we found the shipping container as a very, very effective form factor to be able to mass manufacture them centrally and be able to ship them all over the world. Whether they're transporting products overseas, on cargo ships, over land, on trains, or on the road, on trailers. The shipping container is the standard form factor for our global logistics industry.
You know, there are many parts of the world where people, well, frankly, many parts of Los Angeles where people don't have access to really fresh local vegetables.
It's quite the truth in terms of being in this city, which has such a dichotomy of different income brackets and different people's opportunities to be able to take care of themselves, how much it's needed here, essentially.
Yeah.
Dixon Despommier wrote the book Vertical Farm a number of years ago, which began popularizing the concept of an urban farm, and painting this picture of an ecosystem that is self-sustaining and creates fresh, healthy food for people. Why doesn't that already exist? It sounds so utopian. It sounds like it would solve so many problems. Why isn't indoor farming already feeding the planet? What are the issues? What are the challenges? How do you design a farm that has those capabilities, that is cost-effective? If you can grow a beautiful head of lettuce in any geography, any climate, anywhere in the world, who's gonna be able to afford it if it costs $20? If it costs $5? What price do you need to be able to hit to be able to make that food an actual solution for someone? The technology is cool, the technology is exciting. You get to work with solid state lighting, with robotics, with automation, control systems, sensors, machine learning, machine vision, these things that Silicon Valley and tech geeks get excited about. At the end of the day, it doesn't produce a solution that's meaningful to the average American, or someone living in a food desert, or someone in a developing country. If you can't get more people, more food, more efficiently, cheaper, then it doesn't matter. It's just technology for technology's sake. What we're working on, it can take us in a lot of different directions. We can solve problems for the largest retailers in the world, and we're working on partnering with them today. But I also want to make sure that what we're doing is taking us in the direction of supporting the most impoverished and lowest income community around the world. And so some amount of selfishness, I'm sure, is in there too, wanting to do something grandiose in a way, and wanting to see a field or a platform or a mechanism to do that in a way that can actually change the world, change enough people that it makes a difference. Mentioned that to my mom, and she said, you know, the headquarters of the family business is just outside of Los Angeles. You should email your uncle. So I emailed my uncle, and he introduced me via email to the HR manager at Utility Trailer Manufacturing Company. And then I started working at the family's business. I also started learning about our customers. Many of them are distributors and fleet operators of perishable supply chains.
So food, basically.
Food. So that was sort of my first glimpse at the back end of the food system as well. Historically, indoor farming was restricted to very high margin and lucrative crops. So one of the main challenges that local roots had to overcome was to make our cost structure work while abandoning this free energy source in the sun. So we spent a lot of time looking at the LED industry as a solution to that challenge. Part of that process involved looking at, what type of light does the plant actually want? And what we found, and this has been known for a while, is that chlorophyll, which is the primary molecule in the plant that is photoreactive and drives photosynthesis, is activated by certain categories of light. If you look at the chlorophyll molecule, it absorbs photons from the sun or from a light, and then it initiates the electron transport chain, which drives the energy to create food and fuel its growth.
I kind of do stop him when he starts to get super technical, but I will say that I know he's gone through many iterations of these LED lights. He's gone to certain manufacturers and it's got to be custom and then they don't quite work and he's going back. And
so we realized very quickly that for us to build the farm we wanted to hit, we needed to design our own lighting solution. So today we can say, I want to add this much blue light on these days of the growth of that plant. We can say, I want that plant to be as peppery as possible. And we get to sit down and have fascinating conversations with chefs and produce buyers around what types of crops do they wish they could buy that they can't get access to in every season. What's that random little herb they saw in Southeast Asia on their travels, and why isn't it available in the US?
What do chefs think about this? Because I imagine, a chef has at his access particular things that are around the region, and this kind of expands that.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of chefs taking notice, and the most thoughtful chefs are looking at this very holistically. So it's performance on the plate. So does it taste good? Does it have the right texture? Does it have all the qualities and components that we want as chefs? We test them out, we give them the feedback, they make the adjustments so we can optimize also for our tastes. And then once we get that, then it's locked in.
I got to know Erik a few years back, right after college, and we were both at kind of an academic level interested in the applications of business as a way to address some of these big kind of scarcity issues.
His firm invested in companies across food, water, energy, logistics, and those types of resource scarcity related industries.
We ended up hitting it off, and he became a really good friend of mine, and he'll be at my wedding in about 3 weeks. He was the only person out of about 50 that agreed to do an Ironman with my now fiance and I. I called him up and said, hey, do you want to do this with us? That night he had signed up for it. No hesitation, no questions asked. It wasn't one event, right? You didn't just go run a marathon and all you had to do was run that day. Running a marathon was the privilege that you had a chance to do after a 112-mile bike, after a 2.4-mile swim. Finishing for your first Ironman is pretty low probability, especially when you're in the midst of trying to build a company. I was trying to build a business, Erik was trying to start local roots. Because of his soccer background, he had definitely run farther than my fiance and I, but we were all novices. And over the course of 10 months, we went from total beginner triathletes to having completed an Ironman together.
We have a weekly all-company meeting, and one thing that gets addressed every week is our mission, to improve global health by building a better food system. And so when we get to sit here and say, we get to join our company and work on some of the most interesting technical challenges in the world today, it attracts a very, very fascinating type of person. And the power of that team, that cross-functional, collaborative team, has solved problems that I didn't know how we were going to solve. You can do so much more with other people. And when you create the right dynamic and the right people that are aligned in a goal, and come to the table with different skill sets, I think the interaction between them, the collective problem solving, the collective might is stronger than the components. And you can create something much bigger than each of us. And that's exciting and empowering, and gives me hope that we can do great things as a species. we got a lot of work ahead of us. I think we're delivering thousands of pounds of produce a month right now, and we need to take that to tens of thousands, and then hundreds of thousands, and then millions. Even then, we're barely scratching the surface of what we need to do. What we're very focused on right now is laying the foundation for a growth rate that is going to be exciting. But if you can get those building blocks laid appropriately, if you can truly design a farm and a system and a strategy, and if that farm is profitable, then we can use it as an economic tool to empower low-income communities to take charge of their own destiny, create jobs in those communities, connect people with their food, where it came from, how it was grown, and why that matters.
He was living in Redondo Beach and he said, "Nick, I have something exciting to show you." And he walks me down to their garage, pries open this garage that hadn't been opened in years probably, and he's got these little beds of, baby lettuce growing and these makeshift lights and a whole makeshift, everything's wooden and kind of falling apart, and and he's like so excited about it. All the millennials nowadays, they're always talking about the next app, the next piece of technology, the next, killer techno thing. And here's Erik saying lettuce and food, and I was so happy to hear that.
And so where do you think this is all going? What does the future look like for agriculture in the next 10, 20 years?
Well, they're solving for the margins first, and then it's about scaling. Because we can deploy these systems nationally and even globally, we can bring fresh food to a village in Africa, to a food desert in South Los Angeles, to the rooftop of a Whole Foods in Brooklyn.
Historically, a lot of the sustainability movement would frame the reasoning around why you should buy their products or services as a moral imperative. You should buy these products because it's better for you, it's better for the planet, you should do this. Almost using guilt or fear to motivate people. Rather than doing that, I think a lot of these large operators in the food system, they want to make better decisions. They want to support a sustainable future. They just don't have the opportunity to today. And so when you can give them an opportunity to make a better decision, improve their business, and move the world in a better direction, they're our strongest advocates. And that's, I think, when the crystallization of what I wanted to do became clear, which was not just capitalist and not just for social good, but combining the two of them. When you can build a model, a company that is both for profit and can scale to a large number of people and simultaneously deliver impact, that is how you can change the world. And that gives me hope that not only are we going to be successful, but we can be successful at a scale that will make a dent in some of these global audacious challenges.